starting.
We are going
Jackson,
Davidson.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so mad. I was like, dang it, I even read it. All right. Oh man, we got quite a lot of people waiting. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of the same thing for like last 2 weeks of play guys from the back, play the pure place differential. I feel like I'm doing something wrong again. I know I'm not, but it feels weird to be doing this 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, but there's no precedent for this. We've never seen anything like this before. And, we've been trying to hammer it into people's heads that these rules that you followed before, they just don't apply this week. The qualifying grid, pricing, I think pricing is a little better for the Cup Series, but you have a starting grid that just doesn't relate to anything we've ever done before. So throw out some of those previous rules, play drivers in the back. It's worked the first 2 days. It's going to work again. I don't expect this race to be nearly as hairy. I would say this thing's going to be pretty green. But if that's the case, then the guys in the back are still going to be fine. Really, the wrecks hurt several of the guys that we played from the back. So if this race goes green, that definitely favors a Ryan Blaney. It definitely favors a William Byron. It favors the drivers with good cars and the drivers with skill, where they have more green laps to outdrive their competition and not simply rely on crazy restarts. We could get a couple, but in general, and I put this at racefortheprize.com, there's no desperation out here. These guys aren't trying to make a name for themselves. They're not part-time drivers. That's what causes all the chaos in the Truck Series. That's what causes all the chaos in the Xfinity Series. The disrespect, the lack of talent, the poor equipment, you name it. I just don't see it happening today.
I don't see it happening either. And like with the race yesterday, if it would have gone green, or when it did go green, we saw a lot of the good guys in the back, Annette, Pluto, Haley, even Gregson. I mean, he was doing well flap wise. He was just lap down. But if it went green, you saw them all shuffle to the front. I expect the same thing here, to where all the good guys starting in the back should make their way to the front, because we won't have a bunch of shenanigans, at least, through the first 2 stages. I mean, anything can happen in the last stage, but I have no issue seeing Truex being in the top 5 by the end of it, Byron being in the top 10, probably AJ Allmendinger competing for 7th, people like Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto, Eric Jones all moving up into the top 20s.
I'm not in a green race. I'm not huge about some of those middle tier guys that you mentioned, like Chris Buescher, but we'll get to those guys in a second. What we'll do is we're going to run raw point total. That's how the order of drivers that we will talk about. Obviously, we'll shift around if you've got a question. I think there is a question about Chase ownership, and I'm usually, and I'll get your read on this, pretty honest in that I don't run some sort of computer algorithm to do ownership. And like we said yesterday, you can't do a computer algorithm to run ownership for a race like this. We've never seen a race set this way. Maybe it's a little easier today with a little more predictability and the pricing a little tighter. But for the last 2 days, the guys that were making these ownership predictions, what was your model basing it off of? I remember we had Chris Wright was supposedly going to be more owned than Ty Gibbs. How did that one work out? We had Jet Nolan at 40% the day before. How did that one work out? I'm not worried about ownership. I'm just going to try to play the guys in the front. So I can't tell you what Chase Elliott's ownership is going to be. It'll be high, and like we've done the last couple of days, if it is going to be high, which it probably should be, I have no problem stepping back.
I have a few lineups with Chase Elliott in the situation to where he stays up front the entire race, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm just playing him, for the sake of, if he leads those laps, I'll at least have a lineup with him. But I don't see Elliott really working out. I think he'll finish like 4th or 5th, but I don't see him leading all the laps this race that you really need him to outscore people like Truex, people in the back. And regarding the Eric Jones chalk, I have no issue getting the Eric Jones. I didn't have issue last year with the Eric Jones chalk. He would just get wrecked by other people, or he would be involved in other incidents. I think I'd much rather be on the Eric Jones chalk than the Chase Elliott chalk.
Yeah, I think Eric Jones is fine. I will probably have a lot of Eric Jones. It's hard to compare them because they're really just completely different plays and completely different situations. I guess the bigger thing, and this is just kind of my general building idea, and it's kind of been the same thing this weekend. Eric Jones can make mistakes. He will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Jones can run in 25th place the entire race. We saw Alex Bowman do this pretty much last year. He still finished 12th. We just need him to run well on the last run. That is a lot of flexibility that Eric Jones has as a play. That's a lot of flexibility that Alex Bowman has. It's very safe. Chase Elliott can't make a mistake. AJ Allmendinger didn't work. Sheldon Creed didn't work. John Hunter Nemechek didn't work. Cindric shouldn't have worked. It's just that so many guys wrecked at the end that he actually, I don't know if he was in the winning lineup. I know he's in the optimal lineup, but he didn't put a monster number up because he made a mistake. He had best car, best driver, and still could not really overcome one small mistake. And Elliott may not even make a mistake. He could just get the JGR cars are really strong in the Clash. Hamlin looked good at this track last year. Martin Truex Jr. looked great. He just keeps making mistakes. Kyle Busch was awesome in the Clash. Elliott may not make a mistake, and he could just flat out get beat by some of these other drivers, especially when you can get ahead of him by, just pit cycling different.
Yeah, in terms of, or adding on to what you said, Austin Cindric wasn't in the winning lineup yesterday. He was in the second highest lineup, and it was a 0.8 difference. But
there it is.
Yeah,
don't blame.
So I would just add that on to why I would lean to not playing Elliott. Like I said, I'm on him on two lineups just purely if I think NASCAR is going to bend the rules, throw debris cautions. If Elliott's having issues, I always play a lineup with that. But I'm
told they will.
Say that again.
Yeah. Well, so there's been a lot of cautions, but if you're watching these races, they did not want to throw a caution for Bailey Curry. I mean, he ran the entire track with that flat tire last night, and it wasn't until that tire shredded on the oval portion they said they had to throw that caution. They didn't throw a caution for Miguel Paludo, who did the entire track with a flat tire. They have seemingly tried their best to keep these things going green. I think they'll do that here. I believe these drivers will make fewer mistakes, and there's not going to be as many opportunities for that caution to rig the thing for Chase Elliott. And I'm all about rigging. I mean, I'm not about it, but I'm the first to claim that they rig races for Chase Elliott. I don't foresee that happening. So my Elliott ownership is definitely going to drop. How about some shameless promotion? So you can do your shameless plug first, and then I'll go and do mine.
All right, shameless plug. You can find me at Brandon Cruz DFS on Twitter if you want to see my conspiracy theories, or you can support me at Brandon Cruz DFS on Patreon. You can I'll pass it on to you as I look through these questions.
So racefortheprize.com, that's where you get access to the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet for free. If you want to donate, that's cool. If you can't, no big deal. But check this out. Friday night, it was a spreadsheet user that won the GPP. Saturday, again, it was a racefortheprize.com spreadsheet user that won the GPP. We're 2 for 2. We're going for the sweep, which I think is unheard of. I don't think this has ever happened where I can't tell you when someone used one specific site and a user won all 3 races. So hopefully someone out there can make this a sweep. Hopefully it's me. If it's not me, then I hope one of the spreadsheet users does it, because I think that's pretty insane. It's a pretty hot streak. I've never done it. My spreadsheet's never done this before, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. So I now see why you wanted to promote it. So no, you didn't tell me that before.
I told you it was a shameless, absolutely shameless.
Shameless. Same. I mean, I've won using your stuff before as well, so I can't.
I think it's for a free spreadsheet. Come on, what are we talking about? It definitely is worth the price of nothing.
Yeah.
So, what was the first question? Anything?
Right, so here we go. What do we think about Bell, Custer, and Briscoe? Start inside the top 20.
You go first.
All right. So I got to see where these guys are starting again because I forgot.
They're in a decent spot. Obviously,
see.
Briscoe is in the best spot. Custer, okay. Bell's a little tricky.
Yeah, Bell is tricky. I'm actually really liking Cole Custer today.
Okay.
Just as a play in general at 7,000. I don't see a lot of people going to him. Now, this is purely on the run that he had in the Clash. And that was only about 8 laps, but he was one of the fast. I forgot where he was.
He was in 6th place when his car died.
Let's see. Yeah, he was in 6th, but I think I looked at his average.
And also last year, he finished 22nd at the Daytona Road Course, but he was in 16th place before that last caution. That's not good enough, but we know that he seems to have, maybe enough talent. It's still early, right? No one knows what to make of Custer. He wasn't really good in the Xfinity series. You would like to have seen a little bit more at the Roval race. That's pretty good. That last run, he was pretty strong. He ends up finishing in 9th place. So I think there's enough talent there to take a chance.
Yeah, I think he has probably the 10th best car, 9th best car, and at 7,000, I'm not too worried about that. Well, especially to get different lineup.
So I don't know if I agree that among that, just looking at Bell, Custer, and Briscoe, you think Custer has the best car?
Yeah.
Why?
Just based on the times that he's ran in the road course races, and then as we just looked, like he's had bad finishes. But
who has the most skill, would you say, about road course racing skill-wise?
Maybe Briscoe, but I need to see more from Briscoe in the Cup cars.
Yeah, Briscoe's got 2 Xfinity wins. He led half the laps at this track last year in the Xfinity Series. But Bell has won at Road America. Bell's finished 2nd at Road America. He's had some decent road course races in the Xfinity Series. Last year, not very good. So, you could worry about that. But my bigger question is, you're quick to say Custer has the best car. We already said Kyle Busch's JGR setup was awesome to Clash. Truex, awesome. Hamlin, awesome. Bell's going to have a very similar. Now, he didn't get the reps that we would have liked, but if I'm just going to say who's closer to having a better car, JGR or SHR, I'm saying JGR here. I don't even think that's close. But it's just tough to play him at that price and in that position. There's too much place difference. I think he could have a good day and still just not factor in, and I'm probably wasting too much time talking about it. So.
No, that 7,700 is hard to get to. The 7,000 is not hard to get to. Maybe that's why I'm more prone to Custer, because I was just able to make all the lineups that I wanted, throwing him into them.
All right, yeah, and 84 for Briscoe is pretty steep. Like, there's just, it's not necessarily saying he's a bad play. It's just there are better plays. I would rather have DiBenedetto at 8,100 than Briscoe at 84. Briscoe probably is a better car, probably is a better road racer, but we're talking about fantasy NASCAR and place differential and a race where you can get 10 spots just on pit road by pitting at the right time. So,
and besides, look at the people that Matt has to pass.
Yeah, these guys are going to go back and just kind of cruise. Yeah, and I can see them both kind of getting it. Let's say. I really don't want to belabor this point, but let's say Briscoe plays games and gets into the top 10. I think it's going to be hard for him to hold that spot in the top 10. And eventually he's going to sink down to where he should be. And that's not very much further than where DiBenedetto can be.
Yeah.
All right.
Whereas I think DiBenedetto just kind of just as soon as the race starts, he kind of defaults to like 23rd running position. I don't like the idea of playing Hamlin and Elliott together. I think that's way too top heavy. And you need both those guys to just destroy this race.
Yeah. If Kyle Busch wasn't in this race, maybe. If Martin Truex Jr. wasn't in this race, maybe. And then even then, you're going to have people who go on crazy, stupid strategies that can mix it. At the end of the Xfinity race last night, people were taking no tires when you knew it wouldn't work. You knew you were a dead man, and still 10 cars stayed out at the end, and everyone knew exactly what was going to happen. They were all going to wreck. And there's just so many ways that Chase Elliott loses the lead, no fault of his own. That doesn't really happen at some of these other tracks. It's really hard for him to dominate. So that's one. So now we're not only asking him to run away with this race, we also need Hamlin to run away with this race. It's hard enough for one guy to have a perfect day. You need 2 guys to have perfect days. It's happened. Sonoma 2018. I won't forget that one, but that's the only time where these 2 drivers equally split up the points.
Mhm.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do it either. Truex Kyle Busch is a play that I'll probably be way heavy. Like if you told me to go
Yeah.
Elliott, Hamlin, or Truex or Kyle, I'm going to go Kyle and Truex.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so speaking of Truex, we'll start with him. I have him projected as the most points. I imagine everyone else out there is probably agreeing with that projection. You can, I might even be a little bit low here. But the thing that makes it kind of difficult, and you can get him in, the optimizer has been not playing Truex just because he is so expensive at $11,000. I don't care what the optimizer says. I'm going to try my hardest to get Truex into a lot of lineups. There's just the only bad thing that I can say about him is he made mistakes. What are you going to do last year in this race? And then they're not racing mistakes though. It's not like he's missing spots. He made mistakes under caution twice. And then he made some mistakes again in the clash under caution, but I can't imagine that that's going to keep happening. I have nothing bad to say about Truex. What do you got?
I have nothing bad to say about Truex. I have Truex and Hamlin being my highest projected DK points, but I'm really aggressive on Hamlin leading a ton of laps. And so if that doesn't happen, I mean, Truex is far and above the best play, in my opinion.
So you like Hamlin more than Busch?
Right now, I have Hamlin leading 19 laps and getting 22 fast laps, assuming he's out in front and just walking away with the race. But that's a tall ask. That's the only reason why he's so high in my projections. If I take his laps led and fast laps away, Kyle Busch, where's he at? Kyle Busch is
that up. Okay, good.
Yeah, Kyle Busch is better by 6 DK points for me.
Well, and I hope that these Roval races and last year's Daytona Road Course race scare people away. But if you look at the lap by lap data, it just had bad luck, misfortune. The skills there, the cars there. Obviously, the clash when maybe that's going to weigh heavier on people playing. I like how so I can see Hamlin outscoring Busch, but if I run this race 10 times, I would say more often Kyle Busch, just because he's safer. He's going to get the place differential. He doesn't need a bunch of breaks. Again, Kyle Busch is in a spot where he can make a mistake. It is Kyle Busch, and he'll be fine. He will get us back to – and even guys that aren't going to make mistakes are going to cycle back into traffic, and they're going to have to dig out of it. And we've seen Busch dig out. We've seen Truex dig out. Mm-hmm. Question about the Opto before we go into the AJ one. I always will play it. Now, it depends if I'm spitting out a bunch of optimals. But I'm going to play it because I don't want the winning lineup to sit there and not play it. I will lose my mind. So every time it spits one out, for the most part, I've got to play it. Because if I don't play it and it wins, I'll quit. I mean, it's just it's not like, oh, you're not even playing your optimals. No, I will play them. Now, it just depends. Like right here, we'll tinker around and it spits out a bunch, so it's hard for me to remember. But if a lineup sits there for a day, then I'm definitely playing it. AJ Allmendinger question. We haven't got to him yet. Is he going to be soon? Might as well go ahead and tackle it now.
Yeah, we can tackle it.
What are your thoughts on AJ?
So I'm torn. My thoughts right now is that he's a great play. I have him for over 50 DK points. However, I don't know how good.
Go ahead, because I do have a lot to say too. So you think he's a great play?
I think he's a great play, but I don't know what this car has. Like if I went in knowing that this was a car that was actually prepared. I know it's a colleague car, but for a team who doesn't really compete in the Cup Series, who only focuses on the plate tracks, I mean, they have the best driver on a road course in that car, but will the equipment be there? Can he get the drive? Like if it runs like his Xfinity cars, I love it. If they can set up to work with him and they know what he likes out of these cars, I wish we had practice. I wish I could just see this car speed wise.
Well, the beauty of him starting the back is they're going to have it's not going to be that far off, and they're going to have all race to tinker and to tweak and get it together. And you remember last year, this race, they didn't have, Colleague's a small team. They didn't know they were running the Daytona road course until what? May? Like, oh, by the way, you guys are going to run the Daytona road course. And so for their Xfinity cars, they might have struggled a little bit setting this up, but AJ was fine by the end of that race. I guess it's not really the raw points that you worry. It's just, is he the most efficient? Right now, I've got him going I think I'm being pretty conservative with a 8th place. He could do a little bit better than 8th. He could also do worse than 8th. That's 6x. I like Bowman more. I like Jones more. But he's there. I'm going to build some, but he wouldn't be the first guy. Like if I'm going above 10,000, I'm going to build around Truex. I'm going to build around Kyle Busch. Here's the question: Elliott or AJ?
Probably AJ.
Yep. All right. Now we know that you love Hamlin, but I do want to. Where do you stand on that?
Between AJ and Hamlin?
Yeah.
Let me look.
In cash, you're probably safer going with AJ. I wouldn't build around AJ in cash. Actually, that's not smart at all because, like you mentioned, the car could be bad. It could maybe not be bad, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I mean, he wrecked yesterday. Things can go wrong, and no one is perfect. And he has probably even a weaker machine. God, I would have loved to see him get more reps yesterday, but he didn't get those.
I have Hamlin without any fast laps or laps led 2 points higher than AJ.
Yeah, Hamlin would be safer probably in all. Yeah.
So I
don't know if I make it to that part of the flow chart. I think I probably have gone a different direction before I ask myself that question.
Yeah, I agree. If you look back at AJ, because I'm trying to think what really gave him issues back when he was running with JD or JT Doherty, whatever in the 47 car. And he had a lot of mechanical failures at the end of his stint there. And he choked a lot. I think that was more him having so much pressure. This is back when he hated his life, hated racing.
Yeah, he had a wheel hop in one of it. Like he made some really unforced errors in some of the. And remember, like the one race he won, we elevated him to like the road ringer
god
by default. Yeah. It was because JPM was gone, Marcus Ambrose was gone. It's like, all right, well, who's the next? Well, I guess it's AJ.
Yeah,
that was a mistake. Now, he did win that one race, but it was in a one-lap shootout at Watkins Glen. He's banging off at people.
Yeah, and he moved. I mean, he shoved Ambrose out of the way in the second to last corner. So it wasn't even he had the fastest car; just got under Ambrose and moved him out of the way. So I mean, looking at his last 2 real races in the Cup Series, 15th and 7th, that's what I'm nervous about. Because if AJ is going to finish 15th, I mean, I would not play AJ. I'm playing AJ because I can get place differential elsewhere. I'm playing AJ expecting him to get a top 8, top 5 finish. If he doesn't get that, I'll be disappointed, and that really hurts my lineup paying 10-2 for him.
So if we look extended here, 7th at the Roval, 9th, 4th. So he's got some good finishes. Sonoma, not so good. Watkins Glen, but I'm not going to – we don't have time to figure out. Is this more like Watkins Glen? Is this more like Sonoma? We needed to make that decision already by now.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you say. I will play him, but I will not have too much of him. A lot of things can go wrong. And there's other plays on the board. If there wasn't guys in the back, then yes, it would be 7,000% AJ. But Alex Bowman's right there. Eric Jones is back there. And you've got Chris Buescher's close behind. And even Eric Almirola. I think these are all probably safer, more efficient plays.
Mm-hmm.
AJ tried to block to win a stage. I mean, I'm not going to figure out what they were doing there at the end.
That was just idiotic.
I would say they're both at fault. They're both idiots.
Yeah,
but that's not a surprise. We know that AJ Allmendinger does dumb things. We absolutely know that Austin Cindric does dumb things. So they can't really be mad at each other.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's look at this one, talk about Bubba in a Gibbs car, basically. So the Ty Dillon went above and beyond everybody's expectation. Like nobody knew he was going to win the race. Nobody knew he was going to be that fast.
Ty Gibbs.
Or Ty Gibbs, my bad.
Yeah.
Ty, this might be going on straight. He might be, if this is him and this isn't the equipment, I mean, we're watching the greatest race car driver in history. Like he's going to be better than Gordon, better than good old Senior. I mean, if it's his talent and not the equipment he's in, I mean, I can't even compare Bubba Wallace to Ty Dillon or Ty Gibbs.
Well, we know that car has been set up for months and they've been tinkering on that car. So this is probably one of the best 54 cars they've ever built.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's still almost lost. and you needed AJ Allmendinger to wreck. You needed Austin Cindric to have a damaged car, race through the field. You needed a caution at the end of the race. You know, a lot of things for Ty Gibbs to work out. So if we are, like, even if we want to take that step of Bubba Wallace being similar to Ty Gibbs, you need a lot of crazy things to happen throughout this race. There's a lot of what ifs. And I'm not even cool with the first if of Bubba Wallace being a good road course racer. I haven't seen that. I don't think that this equipment's going to be that great. I think it's good. He's starting 10th. I can't pull the trigger there.
Yeah, it'd be a different story on an oval track, but on a road course, I don't trust Bubba there.
Sure. Yeah, nothing against Bubba, but if this thing goes green, there's no way he's staying in 10th. If it goes green, you look at these drivers just starting behind him. Logano will pass him. I would say Bell passes him, but if you don't believe me, that's fine. Custer will have a lot for Bubba. You know Busch is passing him. Brett Kozlowski has not got good finishes, but if you look at his lap by lap, he's been fine. Kurt should get ahead of him. Truex should get ahead of him. William Byron should get ahead. It's just all these guys that are better, have equal, if not better, equipment too. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I know people want to get on this Bubba train. Just wait. I think it's coming. Maybe next, I don't know if Homestead's going to be the track. Probably Las Vegas will be the week that I will be really interested in rostering Bubba Wallace. And hopefully, he could finish poorly here and also get a poor result at Homestead, where then at Las Vegas, we get him in a really good spot.
I don't want Bubba in a good spot, though. It'd be nice if Bubba can start, 17th at Vegas. Yeah. And then, all right, let's go. Let's see. What else are we looking at here? I got lost in the I like Tom Brady. I'm more of a player guy myself. I'm just a Cardinal fan because that's the team that I like, but we suck. I hate Kyler Murray. We should have got Bosa in that draft.
If Murray would have stayed healthy, I think it would have been a different story.
He's another Lamar Jackson. It was a trap.
No one wants to hear it. Kyle Busch, number 2. No one wants to hear us talk football. Kyle Busch. Yeah, I love Kyle Busch. As far as these top tier guys, I am more Kyle Busch, Truex than I am Hamlin, Elliott. I have nothing. Again, I have almost nothing bad to say about Truex. I have nothing bad to say about Kyle Busch. I love them. I think they can win. I believe that they can earn fast laps through traffic, and they are a lot safer. So
the Anthony Alfredo play, I don't know what to do with Alfredo. I'm going to need.
Where did this one come from?
I need you. Well, because he's starting 31st. He's $5,900. I don't have his salary issue. It's always between Alfredo, Suarez, and Ty Dillon. I'll talk about Suarez in a second as well. I am not getting to Anthony Alfredo. I don't know why exactly. Is it me not expecting him to do well? Like, he has way more talent than probably anybody in a front row motorsports car has had. He's not horrible at road courses if you look at his Xfinity Series races. Are we making a mistake by not looking at Alfredo?
I think I'm making a mistake because my projection is, let me fix this. I'm glad someone brought that up. It looks like there's a formula error here for old Anthony Alfredo. So you talk while I fix that. I apologize.
No, you're good. So, what do I have Anthony out at? Because there's a chance that he can work his way into the top 20. This is a race where his equipment, I know we're talking about Bubba's equipment not really mattering, but a road course and a plate track is almost where these teams that are,
Oh, no, my projection's right. Yeah, it's only 20. I only have him getting 23 points.
Yeah, I only have him getting 28. I have him passing 10 people. And I mean, I think that's his ceiling. And when you look at his DK points, it doesn't really back that up.
He has no road course experience, folks. He does. He ran a Canaan West Series at Watkins Glen and was terrible, or Canaan East. He ran an Xfinity road course race at, I don't know which one it was. Might have been Daytona, or it was Indy. Not good again. He might have gotten into a wreck, but okay, well, awesome. He was in RCR equipment too. You got to do better than that. So who's he going to pass? So look, I got him. He can beat Ty Dillon. He can beat Cody Ware. I mean, that might be a stretch. Davidson, Balicki, Smith, Lee, Heckert, Hill. I feel comfortable that maybe he can outrace those guys. If he does, then he still is just in 32nd. They're going to pass some more guys. Can he beat Haley? Maybe. Can he beat Suarez? No. But maybe. Maybe he beats LaJoy. Even there, we still have him as the, 29th car?
Yeah, 29 points.
Newman,
Yeah, so,
Busch, or Chast. Like, he's not going to beat those guys, is he?
no, I don't see him doing it.
We will need a lot of craziness. Now, if we're going to say there's going to be a bunch of craziness, then why not take even more savings and take someone like Ty Dillon?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I can't. He's not on my board at all. So unless someone got some Anthony Alfredo information out there, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a perfect segue to talking about Ty Dillon, Suarez, and we got to bring up James Davidson because there's people, or Davidson. I mean, people are talking about it. I think that's a horrible play, but we'll talk about that. So the Ty Dillon situation, he is starting 38th. He's cheap. He fits into every lineup, and when you're building with all the place differential, or if you're building with studs, whatever the case may be, you're going to Ty Dillon for savings. Mm-hmm. I don't have an issue with that. It's purely an ownership play. If you want to go to Suarez, I think Suarez is better in this car than people think he is. I have no proof on that because he wrecked out so early at Daytona.
We don't know.
All we have are plate races to look at. But if Suarez can even stay close to Ty Dillon, and if something happens later and he finishes, 2 or 3 places ahead of Ty Dillon, he might squeeze into being the better value play. But there's a lot of ifs around that. The James Davidson, I don't know about you, but I am not touching this guy. Like that's like with how the DK points are structured now for the bottom half of the field, especially even if James finishes like 28th, he's not getting enough points to work. If he finishes in the 30th, he's really not working because those are not enough points. Like you have to get people that finish inside the top 25, inside the top 20 to work with how the point structure is now.
All right, so we'll start with Davidson first because I'm pretty sure I played a good bit of him last year in this very race, and it was almost the exact same spot. He was starting dead last. He might have been cheaper, but it was just a straight punt, and it allowed you to target certain. Now, he was not in the optimal lineup, but he did score something like the 20th most fantasy points, and he was fine in cash. If for whatever reason your cash build, you need to punt, I have no problem going there and him finishing 30th and getting you 23 points. That's fine. But like you mentioned, that's probably not going to be optimal. But I wouldn't completely scratch him out. Ty Dillon's there as well. I don't know if Ty Dillon in the Gaunt Brothers car has too much more upside than James Davidson. Maybe a little bit, but for me, I think they're the exact same play. Maybe Ty is a little bit safer. So if I was in that punt range and I could get up to Ty Dillon, I would much rather. Well, I don't think I would. I mean, we're Rick Ware versus Gaunt Brothers. I don't know if I want to get into that. I may just try to. I would rather go up to Suarez because this Trackhouse car could be really good. It could have really good equipment. We know Suarez is a decent Davidson is a decent road course racer, but Suarez is probably just as good because he has enough experience. Dillon, in terms of skills, probably the lowest. Equipment-wise, and looking at upside, Suarez is going to be the guy that could work in a GPP. I just have a hard time thinking James Davidson is going to work in a GPP or Ty Dillon in this equipment, but I could see a race where, if this equipment is good, then Suarez absolutely is the GPP guy. Now, you might want to not play him in cash because your competitors might play James Davidson in cash. And also, the Trackhouse car could also break down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. It's tough. I'm split with my lineups right now between Suarez and Dillon. I think I'm over the field right now on Suarez, but I'm directly 50-50 right now with my lineups.
Would, in a perfect world, try not to build that way. Is the optimizer is not going out the direction. But if you tinker things a little bit, it does end up on Daniel Suarez. If you give him probably another spot and have him finish as high as 23rd, then the optimizer is going to say, throw him in there. But at 24th, he's just on the outside looking in.
So this is just, it'd be great if we had a beat reporter that could say how good this equipment is.
Not going to happen.
Oh, man.
Heckert, no. You got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I got no.
I don't even trust Heckert. He's had decent equipment in the Xfinity Series, and he's let us down. This is not good equipment. Not good equipment.
Like, if we're like, it's the same thing with James. If we're like, man, James has a good chance of not working, there's no way.
Heck, it works. Yeah, not from that starting position. No, not going to do it.
No.
All right, you got a question, or do you want me to go to Blaney?
Let's see. Team what is with this team? Who put
it's
team stack thing in your guys' brain? Like, you got to get rid of that. This ain't
so.
Football.
Let's rephrase the question. Because we probably are borrowing too many DFS elements when we say that. But we can say, do the JGR cars look good? Yes. And if you would like to play JGR cars, go for it. But there's no correlation, right? When we stack in other sports, you take the quarterback and the receiver because their points go up together. If Truex has a good day, it doesn't have anything to do with Kyle Busch. Now, you could argue that, well, if Truex is good, then the other JGR cars could be good. I don't even want to hear it. I don't think that that's necessarily the case at all. I mean, you can look at past races and see that teams have different setups and different skills and whatnot. So, like, stacks from the other DFS sport, it doesn't really carry over. But to rephrase it, do I like JGR cars today? Yes, I do.
Let me see. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe I'm higher on the Stewart Haas cars if we're talking about teams.
Why is that?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I saw something yesterday and I just went blank because I just woke up.
Kevin Harvick did have a really fast setup. Wait, no, that was the Daytona 500. Oh my God, it all runs together.
It all runs together. I mean, I like Custer because Harvick just tested in the Clash as well. Like, he was not in contention. So,
well, that was probably because he spun out in the dirt. So you can't hold that against him. He got spun in the infield again. That wasn't his fault. And at that point, there was really no reason to push anything anymore. So it's hard to look into any of that.
Yeah.
And maybe. Custer failed. Who else did they have anyone else in the race? I don't think so. So
no, they didn't. I mean, no. And I mean, I don't think Harvick's going to work with DFS. Let's leave this question. I don't like this.
I don't like this question. I was not going to read it.
Let's see.
Yes, he could. Kozlowski, I'm not high on him. I think he'll be interesting because he's in kind of that in-between range. I don't like the play, but that means that he can make it work. I've got him finishing 8th. He can do better than that. I guess what I'm leaning on here by saying maybe Kozlowski is you look at last year in the Roval race. I know they're not exactly the same, but he did spend, I think, no, I don't have it on this sheet. Well, no, I'm looking at Daytona Road Course. I'm going to look at Roval laps. If you look at Roval laps for Kozlowski, he didn't get the good finish, but in terms of top 10 laps, he ran the 5th most. 61% of his laps in the Roval race were inside the top 10. He's just had terrible luck. Things turn around. That might be an interesting GPP strategy. What do you think about Kozlowski?
Kozlowski's interesting because he was really good in the road courses in a late Gen 5 car or in the late version of the COT, like 2011, 2012, those years. And this package is going to be very similar. This is probably the closest package they're going to run in this car to what he was good in the days or back in the day. So if you want to go with that narrative, which I can understand, yes. But I mean, the 9600, I can get better place differential guys in the back. And Austin reminded me why I'd like Stewart Haas. So going back to that real quick is Eric Almirola starting 26. That isn't a horrible play.
Yeah.
I don't like so that's why I was liking Stewart Haas because I'm high on Custer and Eric Almirola can work.
And Almirola did run in that race. I forgot he was in the Clash.
Yeah.
The two things there, going with Almirola and back to Kozlowski. I like Almirola, and when I wrote this at racefortheprize.com, you can see my notes on the weekend notes page. One of the things I was running into at the optimizer, just tinkering just a little bit, was this variation. Like, we're spending a lot of time talking Hamlin and Busch and these top guys, but by tinkering a little bit, it kept kind of bouncing between Buescher, it was bouncing between Reddick, it was bouncing between Almirola, and it was bouncing between Stenhouse. And I think Buescher's probably always going to slide in. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at Almirola, Blaney, or Almirola, Reddick, and Stenhouse, I clearly would much rather play Almirola in almost all of those circumstances. And even last year at the Daytona road course, Almirola just didn't quite get the finish that he probably should have earned. He was in 13th place before the last caution. It doesn't go his way at the end, but if you get a 13th place from Almirola, that might be optimal. Now, going back to Kozlowski, you made a good point about his running well in the low downforce. So if we look at the last time a Roval race was in low downforce, because last year it wasn't a low downforce package. The 2019 Roval was not a low downforce package, but the 2018 Roval was. Now people probably see, oh, well, he finished 31st. Not so fast. If you remember the inaugural Roval race, and you remember the giant crazy moment that happened that took Kyle Larson out, but also it was Brad Kozlowski that led them off the cliff. He was on the front row for that final restart where him and Kyle Larson and
the whole field, not third car.
They all missed turn one on the outside and went straight into the barrier. So maybe the casual fans will see, oh, well, 31st. He could have won that race. So the last time we ran this low downforce package at a Roval type track, he was in contention to win. So, and adding to that, he's just not in the conversation. We're talking Allmendinger, Elliott, Truex. Where does Brad Kozlowski fall? He's going to go under-owned. And if you want to, it's maybe a little cute, but I'm talking myself into it.
Yeah, I'm talking myself into him more and more. Same thing with Logano. Logano was my initial
put it on the board
guy. Put on the board. Play Brad.
These notes, I got to remind myself, like, the last note I had was leave money on the table. And boy, I don't think that's going to be the case today, but that was the rule day 1 and 2.
I know we're talking about Kozlowski right now, but let's look at Logano. So this is my idea on Logano is he's starting 11th. So that's not really eye popping. There's guys in the back who are going to get a lot of points with place differential. His finishes aren't that appealing. You know, they're all top 10s basically, but he's $9,400, so you have to go out of your way to get him when you're building lineup salary-wise. He's not being talked about at all, and he does have a chance to finish very well in this race. He has it like Logano at road courses. I don't hate the play at all. And if we're talking about Kozlowski, I think we need to at least talk about Logano in this situation as well.
He hasn't been a wizard at the road courses. He hasn't been bad. He's shined at times. You want to walk into Glen Race, did me a favor there. And I know Kevin Harvick runs out of fuel, but hey, whatever. That's the way that it goes. I don't know if you need him to lead laps. I don't know if you need him to run fast laps. You just need him to finish towards the front. And he can do that. And it's going to be close. He might need a couple, but I mean, at the beginning of the Clash race, remember he rips the nose off his car. Well, didn't rip the nose off, but he had nose damage. He still battled back and is able to finish third. And that's kind of what some of these other guys have a little bit more flexibility, like Bowman and Jones. They just need to have a good run at the end. You kind of really need Logano to step it up and win this race, but he's shown that, hey, when it comes time, I can get up there and win a race. So I probably like Kozlowski a little more, but Logano is a fine play as well. I probably need to increase Kozlowski a little bit here. Being a little tough on the guy. Go for 5th on that.
It's hard, man. Like when you know, and this is a good example of how we see things like change throughout the week. Because I'm pretty sure when we enter, we didn't even consider Kozlowski, you know, on like Thursday or Wednesday. And now as you dive in and actually look at things, this is how you find guys that are typically low. And this is how I really determine who the chalk plays are, not necessarily ownership. But if I'm talking about them like right off the bat, if I like them, if they're popping off right off the bat, I assume that's how a lot of people are going to do it.
You know what? We should start doing our ownership based on the questions in the chat.
The chat.
It sounds stupid. Like, oh, it's actually pretty good. When I see these questions, I realize, oh, that guy's probably going to be a little bit popular. You know, if I see a name popping up, I know it's not very scientific, but it is kind of a good barometer in judging where ownership might be. So I just reran it with Kozlowski. I'm still getting Stenhouse. I'll dial that down a little bit. And so letting you peek behind the curtain sometimes just to play with this tool as much as I possibly can. Let's take Stenhouse down to a 12, and then I'll run the optimizer and see what it spits out. While it does its spitting, let's talk about Blaney. Where's the Blaney talk? Why are we not talking about Ryan Blaney?
He's too obvious, right? I have a lot of Blaney. I guess we just haven't got to
Oh,
him
is
yet.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm playing Blaney. I guess.
I'm just surprised the optimizer hasn't gone to Blaney yet.
What do you have
And
him projected at?
I got him finishing 4th.
How many DK points is that?
63. He's got the 4th most total points. He's got a 6.1. So I guess people that have been building, and I haven't really got down to building yet. Stenhouse. It's a question mark with Stenhouse, but I think Stenhouse can finish 15th, and if you give him the pit break at the end, he can finish as high as 10th. Like if you look last year, the last 2 races with Stenhouse, he hasn't made any mistakes in this race, and if he just does what his car can do, it can be around 15th place. If he catches the break, he will be fine. You look at Stenhouse last year. And then we'll get back to the Blaney talk. Stenhouse finished 15th. He ran where you think he would, and he restarted 10th. He just didn't have the tires. If we get a late race caution and you got guys on tires, no tires, 2 tires, it's going to be a mess. As much as I've tried to pretend that these guys are skilled drivers, if we get this late race caution, it's going to be bad. Yeah. All of the rules go out the window at that point. All right, back to Blaney. You like Blaney more than me?
I think I have him for 59 points. And I think you have him a bit higher.
I do. And the only reason I'm not is because the optimizer just keeps seeing. Now we got Benedetto jumps in to the picture. Almirola's back. Buescher's there. Buescher seems to be hitting every single time. So if Buescher is popping in my optimizer every single time, his ownership is going to be pretty steep, which is kind of scary for Buescher to have the ownership that might happen. Bowman and Jones, no problem. And then we're slotting in Kyle Busch. Blaney's probably just missing because he's just a little bit more expensive than Kyle Busch. I have him at 63 points. You have him less than that?
I have him 59.
And I mean, I like him, but I just don't know if he finds his way into the optimal lineup when you've got a Truex and a Busch. And then you've got a Bowman, you got a Jones. He might. I mean,
so okay, now this is interesting. Now that we're talking about
this, more than AJ Allmendinger. I've got a couple things I want to talk about too in terms of this build wise. And then I think again with the Stenhouse, I know he's starting too close to the front, but that's the only reason he's in play. If Stenhouse was starting further back, he'd be way too chalky, which is a whole nother nightmare in itself. And we don't need to relive that situation. But he is starting too close to the front. But that's why Stenhouse might squeeze in there at 61. They did a good job pricing Stenhouse at 6,100. He is definitely in play in GPPs. All right, go with your Blaney thoughts.
I was going to say this is why it's a good thing if you have an optimizer, and if you don't, you can find one. You can find a mess. Do your spiel, and then I'll get back into it. Tell them
RaceForThePrize.com. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm talking enough.
If you use his, which is what I use to make lineups or at least check ownership, if a guy's popping out a lot, like Chris Buescher and Ty Dillon, if they're popping out a lot in optimizer, I'm sure other optimizers are gonna be popping on them. I'm sure other people are going to be playing on them. So, I mean, that's a great indication. If you're just getting nonstop Chris Buescher, if you're getting nonstop Ty Dillon, for an example, which I think people are getting.
Ty Dillon?
I mean, I think Ty Dillon's getting a lot, at least in my stuff. Maybe I'm hearing people talk about Ty Dillon being like a punt play or like the value play that you kind of build around. Anyway,
I want to talk about that. That's interesting because I'm not getting it. I'm obviously not as aggressive with these punts, but that was what I was thinking about before, that if I were hand building and I were trying to that's why I don't know why optimizers are doing this. Now, if you have a high projection on Ty Dillon, then that makes sense. Optimizer is going to play him. I don't, but I was thinking if I'm hand building and I'm trying to jam in these big guys, then I'm almost always going to end up, and I bet a lot of people are hand building. So they're trying to jam in these expensive guys, and then they only have so much money left over, and so they end up on Ty Dillon more so than – and then so the first time they do it, and I'm just playing this out in my head. It could be wrong. But the first time they do it, they end up on Ty Dillon. And then they see that it works, and then that morphs into, well, I got to start with Ty Dillon.
Yeah.
And that is I think that's a flawed process because my optimizer is not going to Ty Dillon, but I absolutely could see if I'm building one on my phone, I got to put in Ty Dillon. And then my head knows that, oh, yeah, if I want to play these guys, I got to put Ty Dillon in. And so somehow I've now ended up in build around Ty Dillon, even though it really started out as, well, you just ended up on him.
Mm-hmm. And I think that also morphs into the Ryan Blaney play, because as we're both seeing, he's not, clicking off and our stuff. Like, we have him projected to do well.
Yeah.
But he's not clicking in yours. He's not clicking in mine as much. Like, I have lineups with Blaney, but it's not as many as you would think I would have, entering this week. And so maybe Blaney's going a bit overowned, because if you're building a road course lineup, you got to be starting with Ryan Blaney and Truex. I would imagine that's how a lot of people are going to build if they're paying up to guys. So maybe maybe not playing Blaney is a route that I need to really look at some more.
Well, Blaney's safer cash-wise. Blaney has more room for error. And I haven't really talked about this as much, but Kyle Busch really needs to win. Kyle Busch needs to lead some laps. So you're asking more for Kyle Busch. Ryan Blaney doesn't have to check those boxes. Ryan Blaney just needs to make it to the end of the race, and he'll be fine. Much safer play. I might increase him as we talk. I'm going to put the old RB on the board. I want more Ryan Blaney. I want more Brad Kozlowski. We got to get to some more questions and help people out. If we miss something, I apologize.
No, you're good. There's a lot of Timmy Hill in the chat. This is the worst car. If you look at his, I know he's ran all the races this week. That doesn't matter in a car.
Parked yesterday, we think.
He had a radio issue. I was wrong. He had a radio issue. And then he came back out. He finished 10 laps down. He went to the garage. I thought he was parking. I thought him and Starr starting parked. I think Starr did.
What? Like, Ty Gibbs had a radio issue. Like, you watch when they did the broadcast, they asked him if it was just, come somebody cut this off. Clearly the radio doesn't work. Ty Gibbs didn't park when he had Timmy. I'm sorry, we can't communicate. What did you need to hear from Carl Long?
He'll came back out.
I gotta get out. Like, I need information from Carl right now, or I can't keep. Come on, Timmy. What the?
So, I mean, that's the reason I'm bringing that up, because I thought he started park, but he came back out. So I mean, whatever they're doing, it was not good. You don't want to play him in that situation.
We're talking way too much about some of these puns. I apologize, but we have really spent a lot of time on some of these guys that I don't think need to. We haven't even talked about Eric Jones yet or Alex Bowman yet.
We haven't. Oh man, we've been ranting a lot today. Larson, I don't like him. I don't like Larson at all.
I like Larson as a bet. I don't know about playing him in DFS. I think his odds were 2,500. Last time we were in a low downforce race, he led the low downforce at a Roval type track. He led most of the laps. He was involved in that Kozlowski Kyle Busch wreck at the end of the Roval race in 2018, where remember at the end he passed Jeffrey Earnhardt to advance in the playoffs. That was pretty exciting. That was a wild finish. He had that broken down race car.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, sorry. Give us the damn picks. Thoughts on Byron? Who's better, him or Reddick? I think Byron's a better road course racer. I believe that Hendrick has better road course cars, but there is obviously a price differential here. Reddick has just as much upside, and we've seen him be really aggressive. So he could really have a good day. He could also wreck himself, or he wrecked 2 cars on the last restart of the Clash. I mean, that's exciting because, hey, he's really willing to give it, but there could be payback. What do you think, Byron or Reddick?
I take Byron.
Yeah, I really would try not to play either. If I can get up to Byron, then I'd rather get up to Bowman. So that means I just don't know if that's the most efficient use of money.
Let me look.
All right, so next guy on the thing of our sheet, if they've got questions, we'll remember them. Elliott, Hamlin, we talked enough. Eric Jones, I like a lot. Yes, it is a downgrade in equipment. And someone mentioned Ty Dillon earlier. I wonder how much people realize that this Gaunt Brothers car is not the Germain car anymore. These numbers, they're not inflated, but they are definitely misleading when we realize he's switched cars and he's not even in as good. He may have developed some bad habits by driving a really good car in the Clash. We don't know. Jones, yes, there's been a downgrade here, but Bubba Wallace was running 10th in this race last year on the last lap. Yes, it was helped by cautions, but these lower tier cars can pit before stage breaks and do a lot of things to keep them in play. Jones should be able to stay in play for most of this race and just needs to run well at the end. So I like Jones a lot.
Yeah, I have no issue with just building around Alex Bowman and Eric Jones and going and pivoting other places. I don't want to try and get cute. They're fading 2 guys who should, if everything goes green. I don't I don't expect a super crazy race like we have seen the last 2 nights. Both these guys are top 15 drivers, top 10 if they can get there.
So the reality, like the 2 nights, they've been crazy. And they were crazy because they got triggered by a caution at the very end. That could happen again. But we've also seen the last 2 nights, these races go pretty green for a while. And we just need like an unorchestrated ending at the end. And even if it is a crazy ending, you just take your chances where you can. I don't want to build on the idea like there's going to be a caution in stage 3 and then, one random Yahoo ends up in the optimal lineup. I can't build that way.
Yeah, I can't.
All right. William Byron we already talked about Byron. Kurt Busch is going unlooked. What are your thoughts on Kurt Busch?
I love Kurt Busch. I can't believe I don't know how we didn't talk about more. We must have got really sidetracked today because I have a
freaking talked about Timmy Hill. No offense to ask you Timmy Hill questions. We will allow you to sidetrack us.
Yeah,
but we are trying our best. We're learning, folks. We're learning. Like you're gonna just have to learn to tell people no.
Uh-huh.
Kurt Busch,
I like Kurt Busch a lot. I like Kurt Busch a lot. Looking at how he's been running at the road courses in general, like he is one of the best average lap times across the board. Looking at everything, he ran the Clash, so he can at least have some. He's familiar with the track, recently, not like last year or anything. How did he do in the Clash? Let me just look.
So in the Clash, he was up front, and then he misses turn 1. Larry McReynolds seems to believe that was because he had cold tires and hot and warm tires. He didn't lead him to the green. He's on the outside. He misses turn 1. And the second time, he missed turn 1 again, but that was because Tyler Reddick sent him.
Mm-hmm.
So he had track position. Like if you played a lot of Kurt Busch, like I think both of us did in that Clash race, it was pretty miserable for most of the race because he had to pit because he got turf on his car. But through pit strategy, which you can easily do in this race, he got himself back up front. Let's see, he 3rd place on lap 30, and that's when Tyler Reddick sent him. 1st place on lap 18, that's when he missed it. But just by using pit strategy and not being stupid, he was able to get right back up to where he needed to be. That's why we like these place differential guys. There's a lot of opportunities to fix your mistakes and to dig out. But if you're supposed to lead a bunch of laps, you can dig yourself out to a good finish, but it's hard to dig yourself back up to 1st place.
Mm-hmm. Even if you have a dominant car, it's hard to just drive through the field because you can pass a lot of people. But if Elliott starts, let's say he starts 13th on the last restart and he has 3 laps to catch Hamlin, he might have a better car, but that track is 3 miles long. You're going to see Hamlin take off. That's just an example. So
to that point, you make a great point there about how, if you looked at the Clash, I don't know how much Elliott was pushing it or wasn't, but he wasn't able really to just force his way to the front. Maybe you can argue that he really wasn't pushing. I don't know. I think the better point is to look at Hamlin at the end. Hamlin at the end of the Clash, you've got 5 laps. He starts 10th. He's got fresh tires. He does not drive his way back up to the front. While he's battling the car in 9th, 8th, 7th place, 1 and 2 are just off. Mm-hmm. And they're running away. And so you're losing half a second. You're losing half a second. And it's it. Like you're not going to be able to get back up to the lead. Like maybe you get to 3rd place, but you're 3 seconds behind.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where a lot of my projected fast laps for Hamlin comes from because oddly enough, obviously like in an oval, if you're leading, you're typically getting the fast laps. If you're at a plate track, fast laps are being distributed. Road courses that's based on how much traffic you have to worry about. So you can see guys who are just by themselves getting fast laps because they're not having to pass people. But Hamlin should have the fastest car in this race.
I disagree. I think Truex.
But so
it's close, right?
Yeah, it's a toss-up. Truex has to deal with that traffic early. That's why I think Hamlin can get to the front and lead up until whenever Truex gets up there.
Yeah, so I would dial down the Stenhouse ownership, folks.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's just one of the things with the optimizer. So if you're using my mass entry tool, it's basing it on this projection stuff. And so if you get a bunch, then just change him down a little bit because, it's scary. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I've been talking about. Stenhouse, Almirola, Busch, these are the guys that are constantly getting kind of thrown in, and maybe we're not talking about them enough. But then we're not talking about Kurt Busch, who we still really didn't say enough about him. But yeah, we did. He can finish well. I think he's right there in the same conversation with Brad Kozlowski, and he's cheaper. So should I put Kurt Busch on the board? What do you think, folks? Yeah, we'll put him on the board.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to end up there, though.
Well, let me just look. So the way I see most lineups going is you're going to throw two $10,000 guys in a lineup. If you do that, you're somewhere around 73, 74, 72, 7100 left for your other plays. I think that's why, and going back to the Ty Dillon, Suarez, Alfredo chalk, I think everybody's going to be using this area to get one of these guys so they can go back up and grab people like Alex Bowman, grab people like Byron, Kurt Busch, which is Eric Jones, which is why I like Cole Custer, because he fits in there. And I think Cole Custer can outscore Buescher straight up. So if you don't like how
Custer at 37, I've got Buescher at 43. Clearly Buescher's safer, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at it in the sense of trying to get different or building a different lineup. But I mean, that's how I think most lineups are being made.
Yeah, let me add on to that, because I agree that I would really like to avoid playing these clowns. There, I said it, clowns. And I would really like to avoid, I think Buescher is a fine play, but he's going to be too popular for a guy that got the cautions and stages to work perfectly one time. I mean, there was pit cycling in these Roval races. There was pit cycling in these Watkins Glen races, and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So if his ownership is continuing, like, the Optimizer loves him. James Min, I think someone said, hey, there's just no one cheaper back there to play. Everyone's playing Buescher. I would love to try to build around not having them and not having Buescher and see where that takes me. Because it definitely is going to take me in a different direction from the rest of the field.
Yeah. I got a lot of Buescher. Looking through my lines, I guess I didn't even realize that I have a lot of Buescher ownership. So
I guarantee if you're using the mass entry tool, he's going to be one of the highest guys. I think he's going to throw out tons of lineups with Buescher because it works. Yeah,
I think Buescher might be the best pivot off of, like, to move differently, like in that area. I think Buescher's going to score well, but I don't know if the optimal lineup is going to have it.
Look, I don't know if I want to go to Custer. Ryan Newman's there.
I don't like Newman.
How is he going to burn my mind? I know everything about Ryan Newman screams no. He's been terrible in these races. But I guess I don't know. It's there. If you're trying to pivot away from Buescher, that's just the first one that I see. I would love to try to not, like, if I can get up to Eric Jones at 7,800. He's obviously probably already in that lineup. I'd rather go to Tyler Reddick if I can go to Reddick.
If you can get up to Eric.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to go. I don't want to go straight out. I think that's where I'm leaning. If Buescher's going to be really high, then maybe I just root against Buescher.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about Briscoe. We think he's fine. He's probably just a little too expensive in this race. I'd rather have Kurt Busch. Fading Dinger. Yeah, we're probably not playing AJ Allmendinger either. We didn't get we got kind of through some guys. Let's see, we're not on Harvick. If we miss on that one, we miss on that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything from Harvick to get me excited. Briscoe is fine. I think it's just a price. Like, if you see, we've got him ranked 42 fantasy points, but when it comes to point per dollar, he is about 25th?
Mm-hmm.
Ranked 25th in a point. I just don't see how a 25th place point per dollar guy is going to work.
And look, if I miss on the carbon neutral 6-car this week, maybe I need to play. I didn't even think of that.
He's 18th, and I think I'm pretty conservative with giving him an 18th place finish. Again, if it comes down to cautions and stages at the end, and people wreck, it's like, why are we saying Buescher's that much better than Newman? I just stop and think, like, throw away the spreadsheet, forget all this stuff, and just take a step back, become a regular NASCAR fan. Who do you think finishes higher, Newman or Buescher? It's pretty close. even if you say it's Buescher, it's not by that much. And then when you factor in, okay, so it's pretty close. Well, this Buescher guy is going to have huge ownership and Newman's not. I will gladly pivot to Newman. Sometimes we've overthought this stuff. We've created this Buescher idea out of thin air and out of very little data. So, yeah, let's dial that back.
Oh, I didn't even think of
Oh, let's hit that. Yeah. Oh, Christopher Bell, probably just starting too close to the front. He's talented. Mm-hmm. But he also makes a bunch of mistakes. And the closer you're starting to the front, can't make mistakes. I think everybody down here is probably just too risky.
Yeah, that's...
Stenhouse is just barely making into the conversation. I hate it. I don't really want to do the Stenhouse thing. When the optimizer spits out Stenhouse, I tinker. I mean, you guys just saw that. The optimizer played Stenhouse, and I said, let's just take one spot away. And the optimizer said, yeah, let's not play him.
He's like, we are making mistakes here.
How much money is left on this table for this lineup? Oh, it spins every dime. I was going to say, we could just go from Buescher up to Newman, but you can't. That's fun. You can figure it out. Any more questions? Alfredo? No. Rewind to earlier in the show. We spent way too much time talking about Alfredo.
Buescher going to bust. I don't know if he, I don't think he wrecks. But
no, he needs things to work out for him.
Let me look at Newman and Buescher, what my projections are, because in my mind, I would assume that they're going to be within 4 points of each other.
Same team. I've got Buescher going to 15th, which
can't even find
a little bit better. I mean, he finished 5th, but I would say most races he's around 15th. I've got Newman 18th. He could do better.
I have them projected for the same amount of points.
So,
not good. Yeah. I do have Newman passing one more position, equaling even. So actually, I think Newman might actually be a better play. Looking at this,
I'm not going to lower Buescher's projection just because I'm going to leave it there because I think that's a very fair number for him. It's just mathematically, he's just going to slide in the lineups. Should I be worried about Kyle Busch based on his finishes? No, we spent some time talking about that earlier. Look at his lap-by-lap data, and you'll see that he's been running well at these races. He's just been unfortunate. He won the Clash. He passed 20. I'm just going to show people this real quick. You look at this, Kyle Busch in the Clash, and I think I did this in my podcast, so I'm sorry for seeing this again. 16th to 7th. Oh, let's just do this again. 10th to 4th. Okay, let's do it again. 7th to 3rd. It's not easy to pass cars in the top 5. And then at the end, 9th to 1st. What else do you need to see from this guy? He's in a low downforce car. That's probably going to help Kyle Busch out.
Even if you take that first place finish away, 9th to 3rd, I mean, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, and he's had bad luck. He was in that fall off the cliff in 2018. Now he's got to win. Blaney's probably safer, but I like the JGR cars. If you watch the Clash again, they were the best. End of story.
I think Kay has a good question for us to probably wrap it up on, and that's just who are your top 5 plays outside of salary?
And I just 5 best drivers then who can finish in the top 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can just show them your projected points.
Oh yeah, we can just look at just do projections. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. Why is Carl? Okay, there we go. Elliott, Hamlin, Busch, Truex, and I think you could argue with me. I would listen to arguments. I'm being a little over the top of Larson, but that's more of a salary situation because I just want to see if he squeezes into optimal lineups by really maxing him out, and he didn't. I have Harvick a little too low. Like I would listen to Larson, Logano, Blaney, Kozlowski, and again, Blaney is down a little bit just because he's got a bunch of place differential, and I don't want him to get jammed into too many lineups, so I'm kind of pulling back a little bit. So my 5th guy, we could have arguments all day. I bet it's the same for you. Do you have the same top 4?
Yeah, same top 4.
Who's your 5?
Probably I have Byron.
Really? That's interesting. He's not too far from me. You got I can see it.
Yeah. I think that's where we're at. Jonathan, we talked about Blaney earlier. Kind of to sum it up, he's a good play. He's just not popping in the lineups that I'm making. I'd much rather use that salary somewhere else.
I might try to get to Blaney because he isn't popping in my optimizer. Bowman, yes, he is. I'm not going to tell you jam him in every lineup, but he will be my most owned driver. Jones will be my number 2. And then you got a whole group of these 10,000 guys that I will build. So here you go. Let you see. I mean, I'm giving you my picks, whether they work or not. But I'm building around those 2. I'm trying to go these guys now. I might change direction if I'm ending up too much in Ty Dillon land. I might change direction if I end up too much in Chris Buescher land. But I love these guys, not so much Allmendinger. This guy. And I love this guy. So they will be a lot. And then, obviously you can see, if you just use this column, you're going to get a really good idea of where I stand. Because basically this tells you every week for the last however many years, who's he playing the most? Who's he building around? What's your special player pool? It's these guys. Every week it's right there. And it's been that way for the last 2 races, last 2 couple nights. So there's your peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, and probably to end it for me, I'm going to really just chase place differential once again.
Yes.
With upside of like Truex leading. I have some lineups. If I have to really pin down a lap leader, I like Hamlin. I don't know if he can get it done though, even if he leads a lot.
That's a good point that I really wanted to touch on. Like, 1, who do you think is going to be the lap leader? 2, is he going to be in the optimal lineup? I'm leaning more towards, I could easily see Truex or Busch being it, to be completely honest with you. And the fact that I can say that means I don't need Elliott or Hamlin. So Busch and Truex can be lap leaders or hogs or dominators, but we really are going to refer to them more as place differential plays. I could see them being the guy that leads the most laps. And if that's the case, then I'm not going to have Elliott or Hamlin. I mean, in the thing, another reason why I'm pushing him up really high is because if I don't, the optimizer is just not going to consider him at all. I want to really see these guys' absolute ceilings to see if they're in play. And I'm giving him 15, and he still is only hitting 60 points. Mm-hmm. That's not going to get it done. I could give Hamlin a little bit more, and he can come on board because he's a cheaper price. And optimizer sometimes plays him, but these guys, just too many ways for them to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people almost overvalue laps led. I mean, just think about it. If someone leads 10 laps, that's only 2.5 points, whereas somebody can pass 3 people in 1 lap and already score more than that. And this is these road courses are great examples of why it's almost better to let other people chase projected lap leaders and just really focus on place differential. That's what I would sum it up as.
Yeah, and if we really want to go deep in the weeds, you can get too many cautions that take fast laps off the board. You can get guys that go in for tires because, hey, I flat spotted my tire. I've got to get new tires. Now I come back out in the middle of a run. I've got 4 fresh tires. The track is pretty spread out. I can actually run faster than the leader. That's really deep. I don't know if you need to start going down that crazy route. It's just easier to say, look, I can see more scenarios where these guys hit. Truex, Busch, or Blaney. I mean, Blaney could even be considered a lap leader as well. He was going to win the Clash. Now, was he on a bit of a tire advantage? Yeah, but that's another thing we're going to run into is all these different tire cycles that we could possibly run into in this race. There is real fall off. Now, that's another thing. If we're going to see more tire fall off than we've ever seen before, then that's an advantage to some of these drivers like Kyle Busch or the more veteran drivers that have had to deal with severe tire fall off. I mean, maybe Larson's just not prepared for that because he hasn't been in a stock car in quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I completely agree. And I think we've covered about everything. I don't have anything else to really add.
An hour and 15 minutes, so we probably got to wrap it up if people want to watch the replay. I hope we help people out. RaceForThePrize.com. Everything is free there. If you want to donate, that's cool. If you can't, no big deal. Maybe someday down the road. But what you really need to do, which I think they've already done, looking at your numbers, is subscribe and hit the like button, and then also check out your Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be happier. I mean, we had 143 viewers for time. I mean, that's incredible. I didn't think we'd succeed that well right off the bat.
So 1,000. We gotta get that 1,000 subscribers. You're right on the edge.
Right, then I can get monetized and then get demonetized every video. That'd be nice. You'll have a great day. Best of luck, and thank you guys for tuning in.